Hi, I'm Kevin Rounsavelle, creator of SiteStore Pro and now lead developer at Appzonio. Today we're going to run through the new SiteStore Pro 4th generation e-commerce system. In August 2023, we released the new SiteStore Pro Gen 4 system. The biggest difference between the SiteStore Pro Gen 4 system and previous platforms from the last 17 plus years is that the new system includes a full site builder and CMS. Previous versions of SiteStore Pro included a light version of a CMS, but not a full site builder. Also, previous versions of SiteStore Pro were primarily designed or primarily geared for site developers and site designers, while the new SiteStore Pro Gen 4 system is geared towards both designers, developers, plus site owners, managers, and business owners, as well as content creators. So the new SiteStore Pro Gen 4 system comes with the SiteStore Pro sample application, or the demo store, which we've included some type of a demo store in pretty much every version for the last 10 years. The new version, unlike past sample store starter sites, is more a instructional sample store or starter site than the previous version was more a showcase site. So this is on the screen right now. This is the sample store that comes with every version of Gen 4. And if you look at the menu system, and this will be the exact same application you get when you do the installation, and you can either use this starter site as the basis for your business, or you can just use it as a learning tool and then delete all the sample content if you choose to install the sample content at all. So the sample store comes with a bunch of just generic top navigation menus that link to different content types and different features that are available in the SiteStore Pro application. For example, this is a shippable item, and this shows an example how you can have different colors. The images will change obviously with the color. You can zoom in on the images. You can have sizes. This actual example item is a variant-based inventory where the item inventory level changes based on the option selected. So for instance, this medium black sweatshirt has a stock level of 5, while we change a different one that's out of stock. So the application sample store shows you the different features that can be used in SiteStore Pro, and the majority of merchants will only use a small fraction of the features in SiteStore Pro because there literally are thousands of features. Again, the SiteStore Pro application has been in continuous development for the last 17 plus years, and we typically release anywhere between a dozen or over 100 features per year. So as we continue through the sample store layout, there's different types of items, downloads, events, donations, video on demand products, service only items like invoices, and even an advanced product configurator. All these items are included in the sample store application just so you can see how they run and you can see the functionality without having to build that for yourself initially. And obviously you can delete those items, you don't need to use them, but they are included in the sample application so you can learn the application very quickly. As I said previously, SiteStore Pro now, unlike past versions, as of August 2023, comes with a full site builder and CMS. And the site builder and CMS allows you to basically build out your entire site from the online system only. Previous versions, you were required to use an editor like Dreamweaver or Visual Studio to do your design integration and do your site building. Now, the actual front-end pages and the front-end skinning can be done entirely through the online system. However, we still allow you to do the skinning and the design integration using your favorite editor like Dreamweaver or Visual Studio Pro or Atom or Notepad Plus or whatever. You can still do that using your editor, and you aren't required to do it through the online store, for the online CMS system, but you can do the entire site skinning and design integration and even building out full pages and build out the entire site through the online system now if you want to. We had a lot of requests over the last few years that they wanted existing merchants and resellers and design firms wanted something similar to WordPress that would allow them to build a secure online store without having all the problems of WordPress. And when I mention problems with WordPress, I primarily mean the issues with plugin incompatibility, the issues with security updates always coming up when there's constant patches because there's so many hacks going on with WordPress. And another primary issue with WordPress, which is a big deal with a lot of our merchants, is that WordPress is very difficult to pass full PCI compliance. It's almost impossible, actually. And SiteStore Pro has passed its compliance right out of the box. So many of our merchants, we wanted a full CMS that allowed them to basically have the same kind of functionality as WordPress, but also include all the power that SiteStore Pro is known for on the e-commerce shopping cart side of things. So what we did is we created a full CMS for some of our clients a few years ago and let them license it exclusively and work out the bugs. And then we've finally released that to the public in August of 2023. So here is the, I'm in the default admin. This is actually the sample store data. We provide 2 years of seeded sample store data, so you can run reports, figure out how the reports run. This is the new dashboard of SiteStore Pro that comes with the application. Again, this is out of the box. This is what you get when you install the sample store with the demo data, so you can learn all the features of the application. As you can see, there are tons of features in SiteStore Pro. I mean, this is just one of the menus. This is all the setup options for the different forms and checkout areas, stuff like that. Products, configurations, options. There's, as I said, SiteStore Pro literally has thousands of features. We've organized the new SiteStore Pro admin to make it much easier to find things than it was in previous platforms. And we also added a live search, so you can locate items a lot easier than you would have before. And before it was you have to go to the site search, which is still there, but now you can do a live search if you want to. This is minor things, but we also added different viewing modes. SiteStore Pro now has 3 different viewing modes. So we have a dark mode now. There's a light mode. These are all just new things that were not available in previous platforms, but are now available in Gen 4. Again, the biggest difference in Gen 4 from Gen 3 or even Gen 2, and especially Gen 1, is that it now includes a full CMS. One of the questions we get asked a lot about SiteStore Pro is, can I use this with my existing website, or can I use this with my existing design? And the answer, again, is still the same as it always been. Absolutely yes. SiteStore Pro is still the only e-commerce system that you can apply to any design, whether it's a template-based system, whether you buy a template from an online portal, whether you have an existing site design, we have a custom site design. We have yet to see any design that would not work with SiteStore Pro. The difference now with Gen 4 is that any site design can actually be created and or managed directly through the online system, which before you'd have, obviously you'd use an editor like Dreamweaver, and you'd pull up the design files and you'd be editing the design files in Dreamweaver itself, and then you'd post it up to your server. You can still do that, and our online tutorials show you how to do that also. But for vendors and merchants who prefer to do everything online, and maybe they're coming from a system like Wix or Squarespace or even WordPress, obviously, then you can still do everything online now. The difference between SiteStore Pro and maybe WordPress or even Wix or Squarespace, which are those systems are primarily designed as a all-in-one builder without any amount of customizations. You can't do any customizations without really risking breaking the system and or hiring a developer that can maybe customize that. SiteStore Pro still is fully customizable, from ground up. Every feature is customizable. The new system, you can actually customize even the admin now. The admin's fully loggable, so any customizations you do to your store if it modifies any of our core code, you can record that, and you don't have to worry about updates breaking anything. That's one of the big issues with WordPress, is that, as anybody who's used WordPress more than a couple months has found out, a WordPress update will come out, and some of their functionality, one of their displays, their widgets, maybe their menu, it just breaks. That cannot happen with SiteStore Pro CMS. It will not happen. The reason we separated the SiteStore Pro CMS builder and the SiteStore Pro CMS code display specifically so that cannot happen. That was one of the primary building points of our CMS system, is when we were creating SiteStore Pro to be a full CMS, we made sure that when you are editing content in SiteStore Pro, you will never be locked out of your content, which does happen quite often in WordPress. I mean, this is the way it is. I'm not going to mention any specific editors, but the top 3 visual builders in WordPress, the plugins, all lock up occasionally on a certain, and you have to go into safe mode or whatever to recover your content if you can. The other huge feature, besides the fact that there's now a full CMS, is that SiteStore Pro CMS now has a real-time revision and reversion system. What that means is that when you're editing one of your pages on SiteStore Pro, this is actually the home page of the sample store. This is this page right here. Same content. There it is. It's got a slideshow that's loading. It's got the just a standard 3-column card display. This is all the code in SiteStore Pro CMS is non-proprietary. It's not like, again, I won't mention any names on WordPress, but it's not like the WordPress CMS builders that they have very proprietary code, and it's almost impossible to decipher that code if you ever have to go in there and manually edit anything. All of SiteStore Pro's code that's generated is just standard CSS and standard HTML. I mean, there's dynamic content with PHP, plugin data that loads. Here's a plugin shortcode, but the code that's created by the CMS is just clean, easy to understand, generic code. No non-proprietary. It's not bloated like WordPress gets. Any person that has limited CSS and HTML knowledge will be able to edit this. And that brings up a good point. SiteStore Pro is still designed for editors and designers who do have some knowledge of HTML and CSS. For instance, one of the main editors in WordPress is very powerful when it comes to building out pages, and it makes it very simple to do so. However, the simplicity of building out those pages with the proprietary code that's created makes it very difficult or almost impossible to edit those pages outside of that editor. And so if you're basically locked into that system regardless. And so if you want to use an external editor, or if you want to use you want to manually edit that data or that HTML, it's very difficult to do that without corrupting your entire page that was created by that editor. And you can't bring code from the HTML that's created in one of these editors and then edit it in, for instance, Dreamweaver. I mean, you couldn't do this and copy the code out of the editor if you want to. I'm not saying you would do this, but you can, and then bring it in. Let's say the Visual Studio, and create a Visual Studio page, and then so create a random Visual Studio page and paste that code in there. And same thing with Dreamweaver. I mean, you can edit in here then in Visual Studio, and then make your edits, and then copy it back into CMS. And then I'll go the same thing in Dreamweaver. You could create your own just random edit page in Dreamweaver, and then add that code into Dreamweaver, and then then you can do it outside of the CMS, and you can understand the code. You cannot do that in Squarespace or Wix or whatever, especially WordPress, if you're using a third-party CMS system. you can do it, but it's very, very difficult, and it becomes all kinds of problems. You have code corruption, you have incompatibilities, and the one primary point we made with SiteStore Pro when we released the new CMS platform is that you will always be able to edit the code manually outside of if you want to and go back and forth. This provides an extreme amount of power for experienced developers, but it also prevents non-experienced developers or site managers or business owners from getting locked out or getting, basically having corruption in their system. It can't happen. Let me explain kind of why this won't happen. What you're seeing right here is the text editor part of the CMS. We've separated the CMS editing for text and the visual part into two separate editors. And so you can go back and forth from both, and you're not going to get locked out. I mean, when you're in WordPress, for instance, on most of the editors, when you're doing your editing, you're always in that editing system. And the problem what happens is if there's any kind of corruption, you can't restore that data. And this separation of the visual drag and drop parts and just the standard text editing, which you normally do in any, this is the TinyMC editor. It's separated, so you can go back and forth anytime, and you can make content changes on both sections. And let's go ahead and change this image real quick. And there's change that one right there. Go back, and now it's changed. There, it's updated there. And I can change that image on both editing areas. I can actually change it here if I wanted to as well. And this is obviously a very standard examples, but I'll go ahead and just change it to a different one. And I did basically the same thing in two areas. And even though it's a very simple example, because all I'm doing is swapping out an image, on other editing systems, if you were doing something more advanced, like for instance, if you were building a different part of the page, let's go ahead and add a page element here. Like let's add a sample. I don't know. Let's add a two-card responsive card. So there we go. Let's add another card section there. And if you were in another editor and you had some kind of corruption problem or your plugin was corrupted, you'd be stuck here. You would not be able to edit this data. You can always go back in SiteStore Pro and edit that data in the main editor without worrying about getting locked out. And again, the code is not proprietary. You can see it. Everything that you do, you can see it. I mean, there's no proprietary markups going on there. There's no code that's bloated, and there's a bunch of style sheets and stuff like that. None of that's included. It's just pure, clean, high performance CSS, HTML, and a combination of dynamically generated plugin data. So this is a brief overview of some of the CMS features, but in previous platforms, this was not available. We basically had a very light editor. It was text only. The new system allows you to generate an unbelievable amount of dynamic content. We actually have a content generator system where you can, let's say you wanted to, look up a product, so you can make a dynamic product link. In WordPress or other systems, you have to actually find that item somewhere and copy the URL. With this thing, you can just basically do a search. So like, let's just look for like diamond ring or something like that. Okay, here's diamond mosaic ring. You can actually get the dynamic code for that item. You can get the actual URL for the item, which is what the public sees. But you can also get the dynamic code for that item, and you can just go ahead and copy it, and then paste that directly into your content. And let's just go ahead and put it on the bottom down here somewhere. I'll put it right here. So there is pasted a dynamic code snippet, and then when that page is viewed, then it's gonna render that content automatically, and you don't have to actually know the links and the dynamic code and all these things you need to know in other systems. It's done automatically for you, and there's the link right there. I just generated it. And so, it's just, there's so many features that are now designed to make it so much easier to build out these dynamic sites with all the enterprise features that were previously available in SiteStore Pro. We didn't remove any of our e-commerce features that people love so much. You can still have unlimited items, you can have unlimited categories, real-time shipping, pretty much support for any of the major payment processors, plus you can easily add additional payment processors with plugins. All that stuff is still included in SiteStore Pro. The difference is now you have the option, if you want to build out your entire site through the dynamic CMS system. We'll go back to CMS real quick because I want to go through one more thing. It's a huge feature it was basically years in development. One of the things that, if you've ever used WordPress specifically, the revision system, if you have to go back and revert back to a previous version, is very unfriendly. It's very hard to figure out. It's very hard to figure out exactly what you've changed. We created a visual revision system. Every time you do anything in a CMS, when you're editing online, it creates a revision record. And so here's a revision log for the home page of the sample store. And you can see just the ones we've done today. These are just what we were just doing. Everything we've done, I opened up the advanced editor, closed the advanced editor. Open up the advanced editor, close the advanced editor. I viewed the page. I saved the page manually. Everything you do in SiteStore Pro CMS is logged. So let's just say we want to go back and revert back to a previous version. With WordPress, or any other CMS pretty much, it's very difficult to see what that revision was. You can actually see basically a log comparison, but you couldn't see visually. With SiteStore Pro, you can actually click on View, and it will load that version into a revision page. The public can't see this, only you can see this. So we can go through and see, oh, look at that. Remember that whole section we had on the bottom there? It's gone now. This is back to what it was before. And all the edits we made, we might want to go back to what we did before, because we might think, oh, I really like the way I had it before. So I want to go back to that. If you are using, I won't activate it right now, I'll go back to the editor. If you were using another CMS system or even WordPress, you would not be able to figure out, it's very difficult, almost impossible to figure out what you actually changed. And if you can see it's highlighting green, that means we just viewed that. So we know that one was basically the default layout that was before we started editing anything. So if we look at another one, let's look at this one. Let's see. We'll do that one, which I believe is after we created the revision record. Let's go back to the return. Go ahead and go back to the other one here. Let's believe it's this one. And we'll go ahead and look at the editor, and then there it is. There's the new section we added. It was right before we added that little code snippet on the title there. But if you can see, we can obviously see right there that this is things we've added. And if we go back to the editor, it will automatically highlight the one we've just reviewed in green. So we know we're not going to do that one again because we just looked at it. So we'll go ahead and revert back to our original layout before we made any changes. And all we have to do that is click on View. Oh, that's it. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and activate that revision. Then it's going to would you make sure you confirm it. You want to make that this will be the confirmed. Activate the revision, and then it will be the public version. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that. And now the selected revision has been active. And now if you go back to the website, it will be that version. And there it is. It's just the default version without that lower section. Every time you do an edit in SiteStore Pro CMS, it records a revision. Even if you don't even really know you're doing an edit, it's actually saving it every 10 minutes. Every page you open, if it stays open, it will auto-save it after 10 minutes. So for instance, if you were doing something else, you get an email, you're working on a Word doc or something, copy and pasting, you somehow delete something, it's going to save it for you automatically. So you can go to revisions. If you, for some reason, look at your site and it looks funky, you can go back to your revisions and you can get that page back no matter what. The online revision system and reversion system was the most popular new feature of the CMS with all of our beta testers. They couldn't believe once they started playing with this thing and learning the ins and outs of the CMS, how they could go back and forth on content, not worry about corrupting stuff or not worry about making changes because they wouldn't be able to get back. Anybody who's used WordPress, you do some changes and then suddenly, oh wait, oh this doesn't look anything like I want it to. I'm going to go back and you look at the revision log in WordPress, and it's just basically a bunch of code, and you can't really figure it out. You can look at the code for the revisions by just picking a revision and choosing that revision, and then applying that revision, and then looking at the code if you want to. I mean, the code's going to be there. I mean, it's going to be if you look at the code view, there's the code. You can do it that way, but it's much easier to do a visual revision system by just selecting one, looking at it. Oh yeah, this is the one I wanted. Doesn't have the stuff on the bottom. Oh look, this looks good. Everything's formatted correctly. I want this one back. So we go ahead and activate it. Boom. Simple, quick. If you're developing stores and you start developing multiple stores, the revision system is going to be your best friend, because when you're going through and trying to get products added and you're adding about us pages and contact pages and privacy statements and stuff like that, you don't want to be worried about making sure that the content is saved somewhere else so you can go back and revert back. Everything's here and built in for you. The last thing I want to go through is the other really, really big addition, which is an optional. It's by default it's turned on, but it is optional. But that is the unified CMS system. I'm sorry, unified CSS, not CMS, CSS. The unified CSS system is a huge time saver for developers. Some people, it will take a little bit getting used to because it's out of their normal development workflow, but it is, once you get used to the way it works and the benefits, you probably won't go back to a previous way to do things. So let's go ahead and look at the new CSS system. And the CSS, basically what it does is it gets all the CSS from every single section on the site and puts it into one central management system. And if you use SiteStore Pro in the past, you'll understand that SiteStore Pro CSS was very proprietary in the past. Everything was labeled with SiteStore Pro underscore. It was very hard to white label. It was very hard to find things. We understood that. That was a major reason why we completely redid everything on this version of the Gen 4 system. Everything on the Gen 4 is completely new CSS from ground up. Everything is labeled much more descriptively. It's not proprietary. It's very generic labeled. For instance, if on, let's say, product search results, the product search results display in previous versions besides this Gen 4 would have been something like SS Pro underscore search underscore results. Everything came out, had SiteStore Pro in it, which for most people that doesn't matter, but for people that are white labeling it, resellers, design firms, they don't want the proprietary CSS out there for the public. So everything in the new version is just generic. This is product search results display, and that's about as generic as you can get. And everything in the new system, every CSS rule, every CS class, everything's under this unified CSS manager, which is under CSS. Everything's under here. The reason we combined everything into an online system instead of the previous system, in the install directory, there was, on your sample store directory, on the install, there was a folder. Here's a list of the folders. This is the generic install. There was a folder, called CSS. There's no CSS folder now. We didn't include the CSS folder now because all the CSS is now by default managed online. That being said, there is no reason you cannot still manage it offline. And a lot of developers will want to do that. The reason we recommend not doing that until you're ready to launch the store is this CSS system also has a revision system. Just like we showed you in the pages editor, Every edit you do in the CSS system has a revision system. The additional benefit of the CSS revision system is you can name your revisions. For instance, let's say you're doing just a quick skinning. If you're doing a quick skinning of your sample store to match your own color schemes, most sites can just modify the global CSS variables under this section. These are just the general global variables that format all the other elements on the site. You know, font colors, font sizes, accent colors. You know, let's just say we wanted to basically just change. Let's say we want to change the site width, which is just the max width. We could easily just go ahead and let's say this site's max width is 1900. Let's say we want to change to like a max 1700. So I wouldn't then change 1700. Then I'm going to save this. Then it's going to pop up and ask me, do you want to name it? I'm going to say changed to 1700 pixels wide. Update. So now, if you later on decide, oh, that's right, I want to go back to 1900. You know, what did I do? If you go to revisions, the revisions actually show you what you did. So you can name the revisions. I mean, whether you're changing a background color, whether you're, I mean, let's say the body background, you want to change it from this generic off-white to black or something, or red, or lime colored, or whatever. And let's just make it to black. I'm going to change it to black. Save that, changed it. Changed background to black. Update it. Revisions. Change background to black. So if you look at the site now, and you'll see, go back to the site itself, the generic site, and it's got a black background behind the content. So if I'd have to basically make the page a little smaller so you can see the background. So there it is. There's the black background that's behind the content. The content is on top of it right now, so you wouldn't see it. But we just changed that black background. So if there's a black background, you can see the sides behind the content is now black. We just do that edit in the CSS manager. Obviously, we don't want that, so we can go back to the CSS manager and say, you know what, I want to revert back to what I had before. Let's go ahead and go back to the default, go to revisions, and let's go ahead and select the default rules that were originally in there. If you copy that, and then just go ahead and put that in there. I'm not gonna give this one a name. It's just give it a default name. It's saved. I'm not gonna give it a unique name because all it is revert back. But now it's going to be defaulted back to way the backgrounds are now back to the way it was. Again, all this content, everything you do with the CMS system can be reverted back to a previous version with our revision system. This is why we created it. This is why we did this. We are developers. As you know, when you're making a site, you make tons of changes. I mean, hundreds, sometimes thousands of changes before it's actually the way you want it. The problem is you get back to the point where, what did I do at that point? How do I get back to that layout? How do I get back to that color scheme? This is the answer. This is the solution, is to have this revision system. Another solution that can be used for this revision system is sometimes people actually have different CSS schemes for different times of the year, whether it's the holidays, whether it's during sales, whether it's if you're a reseller or a design firm, you can actually, and we actually include this in our reseller support. You can actually create templating scripts where you can instantly skin an entire site, pretty much by just replacing the content in here. And so if you're a reseller or a design firm, you can have your library of just global CSS variables, and you can have basically a demo site that you run yourself, and you can go in there and say, okay, this is our generic blue, white, off aqua site or whatever, and then you just go ahead and put that in this section, save it, and then you can use that as a templating system, which is another reason you can use the revision system. that wasn't the primary purpose of it. The primary purpose was to aid developers in reverting back to, when they make mistakes or when they want to go back to a different layout. But you can also use it as a templating system for if you're doing a bunch of sites. You can have a library of existing CSS profiles which you can load in here and then automatically skin a new site based on that profile. Some design firms that have tested this were just blown away that they could do that. They could basically skin an entire new install for a client in a couple seconds, basically. All you really have to do is skin it here, go up to CMS logos, upload the client logo, and you can pretty much have a fully functional skinned site, minus their own products and data, obviously, and their own, about us content, stuff like that. But you can skin a client site on this new CSS system using the online system only in a few minutes. And before, that would obviously take a lot more time when you had to go into create a CSS file and then post it up and upload it by FTP or whatever you want to do. Okay, the last thing I want to go through is there are going to be times when, let me zoom in a little bit here. There are going to be times when you as a developer, designer, or a site editor, you're going to want to use a offline version of your CSS, or you're going to want to use a CDN to serve your CSS. You want to save your CSS into a file and have that on a CDN. That's built in. I'll go ahead and give you an example here. Right now, this thing is loading locally. Everything's loading from the database locally here, and they're actually performance-wise, you won't really see a difference between loading it locally or the CDN. But if you have a very high traffic site and you want to load your CSS or even all your images from a CDN, that's recommended because it will be loading them from the nearest point of contact to that specific user. So it will increase their download speed. But for this instance, we're going to say, let's say we've finished our editing and we want to actually either save this locally and edit it later, or we want to use an external CDN to serve that CSS instead of having it served dynamically through here. We can enter in a CDN URL here, and it will actually then load that CDN URL. So I'm going to go ahead and paste a CDN URL in here, and that's just a minified version of. You see these two buttons here? These actually generate the full CSS of the site into a file. You can either, this is the non-minified version. Every CSS rule is generated, so you can copy that and use it offline, or you can generate a minified version like this, which you'd use for production usually if you're launching your website. So I'm gonna go ahead and this right here, this code right here, is the same that's on this CDN file that I've already generated from before. So I'm going to go ahead and save this CDN, set it, and you'll notice now that a lot of these things are highlighted in red. The reason they're highlighted in red is that the section in red now is being loaded externally, and if you do a revision in this file, it will not be saved as an active revision in the live file, because that file is now being loaded from an external URL. There's certain content on the site that's always loaded from the database, and that includes the site layouts and the product layouts, because those are generated dynamically per product or per page. But the generic CSS can be loaded from a CDN, or you can even load it and edit it in your local editor. If you look at the site, it's going to load exactly the same because it's the same CSS. I'm just loading it from this CDN, which is on Amazon Cloud. This one's on Amazon CloudFront, but the concept is basically you can choose to either edit your CSS entirely online with the online editor. You can choose to edit it back, on either in your editor or in an editor like Dreamweaver. For instance, a lot of our developers, what they'll do is they'll open up their CSS. And by the way, if you click on the CSS file, it automatically selects all of it for you, which is nice. So we'll go ahead and create a CSS in Dreamweaver here. And you can edit the CSS in your Dreamweaver editor just like you would on a normal site. if you prefer that. And the only thing we recommend is if you do edit it offline and you're not ready to launch your store, you should probably duplicate those edits in the online system so they are recorded as revisions. If you want to do that, if you make the decision to always edit your CSS offline, then that's fine. You just won't use the revisions, and then you'll manage all your revisions offline. But developers, as we test this thing the last couple of years, have figured out, hey, it's kind of neat to be able to go ahead and use my normal editing process that I have been using forever, whether it's in Dreamweaver or Visual Studio or whatever, and then go ahead and save those changes locally, but also go ahead and add, let's say I changed here the primary button color from this blue shading to, I don't know, let's just say like dark blue or something like that. As long as if we did that, then technically what we want to do is if you still want to use a revision system, you can go back up online and make that same change in the revision system here, which was, I believe it was the primary button, primary button color. So I'm going to go ahead and do the primary button color. It's right there, and then make the same change there. And that way, if I ever decide to revert back, it is there. I'm not going to save this, but I'm just giving an example. So at any given time, you can do offline edits, online edits, a hybrid of both. Again, the new system works with any site design, and you can basically edit any which way that fits your development workflow. We found, as we've learned a lot the last couple of years testing this with clients and building our own site. The new SiteStore Pro is built entirely from the admin. We have thousands of pages of content on the SiteStorePro.com site for the knowledge base and everything, and that's all actually built through here. Yes, and what we've learned is that after you get over the initial learning curve of using an entirely new CMS, based on all the designers and design firms that have been using this for the last year and a half, basically, once you learn how to use it in your workflow, we're confident that this is going to be your go-to, not only your go-to e-commerce system, which SiteStore Pro has been for years, but your go-to site builder. And we're actually converting all our WordPress sites that we manage over to this system now, just because it's so much more secure. The performance is so much better. There's not any security issues. Any plugin issues, and it's just a far better overall system. Bottom line is we have yet to see any site that's being built that cannot be built entirely through our system. And whether it's super complicated, advanced HTML that needs to be added manually, or whether it's included in the built-in features, we have not seen one functionality that could not be accomplished. I'll give you an example of something that's very complex that's actually built in 100%. The events calendar system is built in. It includes a dynamic events calendar system where you can register online directly for events that are coming up, and that's built in. It pulls right out of the products manager. But this sample event system, the sample events page, has actually a background video to it. And background video is if you've ever done web development, is kind of complicated as far as getting it to work correctly and getting it to be responsive and all kinds of stuff like that. That's all built in. You can add video directly through the CMS. And I'll just go ahead and pull up that page. Find it. There it is. Events. This system has a full width background page image video. And this is actually in the CMS system directly. You can actually preview your video directly in the CMS. So there's the background video right there, and you can replace this directly through the CMS right here and add it. Either use a locally saved copy or use a CDN copy. All content on the site can either be local or CDN depending on your distribution requirements and your traffic requirements. And this is, again, we made it so the core functionality for most site builder requirements are built in already, but you can dive down and basically, create the stuff offline and then bring it in through the editor, or you can, tweak things with your favorite editor. But I mean, there are so many features that are included in the CMS. That's one of the biggest surprises by people that hadn't used SiteStore Pro in a while. When they came into CSS, and oh my gosh, there's articles, there's tags, there's SEO stuff, there's page excerpts, there's featured images, there's background images, there's background video, there's full width header images. I mean, that's another thing that's built in. I mean, if you look at the About Us page on the front end, here's a full width header image that's responsive and a full width text overlay. This stuff, either you have to use some kind of a plugin or you have to have some pretty advanced CSS knowledge. All this stuff's built in. And, granted, there will always be situations where an editor's, a designer or developer says, hey, I don't see, how can I do this? We can't include everything, obviously. But if you see something and you can't figure out how to get in there, let us know. We'll help you out. We'll get in there for you. We'll help you get in there. We'll help you figure out where to put it. And as I said before, after tons and tons of testing, dozens, actually over 100 now, live production sites, we still haven't seen any kind of site layout or site feature that could not be integrated directly in without modifying any of the core functionality. And we'll go back to the WordPress thing again. That's one of the problems with WordPress. You start adding these plugins to add functionality, and then it breaks something else. That's not going to be a problem with SiteStore Pro. You will not ever break your application doing updates. Let me repeat that. Your application will never, ever break when you're doing updates. SiteStore Pro now has a core application update feature automatic, which we didn't have in the past. No updates available. Previous versions of SiteStore Pro had to be manually updated. The new platform is auto-updated. If you want to update it automatically, you have that choice. By default, it's turned on. But no matter what, it will not break any functionality. We have separated it out, and we've tested to the point of exhaustion to make sure that no matter what, the updates will not affect any of the design functionality and any of the layouts and stuff like that. So you're not going to worry about, if you add custom code in here, it's not going to break something else. It might affect that specific page you're on, but you won't get locked out of that page. You won't have it break the functionality of the entire layout. I mean, everything's isolated. Everything's basically designed to be a cohesive unit that will not break if you modify something directly. That, unlike WordPress, that is very common. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We've been talking for a while now, and there was so much to cover on the Gen 4 system. There is just so much new features. I mean, even the product system, which was basically one of the most advanced product systems out there for an e-commerce system of any cost. SiteStore Pro's e-commerce features were top notch. They always have been. We even added to those. We even added to new features with the site builders. And let me find one example here. The last thing we'll cover here is just some new product features. Some of the things you couldn't do before on the product managers is you couldn't customize the design per item. You can now do that. There's an advanced formatting system which allows you to basically add custom headers, custom background video. This one actually has a background video to it. You can add custom CSS if you need it. The big difference on this new platform is that you actually can select different layouts. You can have multi-column layouts now, which you couldn't have before. Those are examples in the sample store. If you go to layout examples on your sample store, it shows you different kind of content layouts. The previous platform didn't allow you to have a 3-column layout. The new platform, here's a 3-column layout. That wasn't available previously. That's all included in the new platform also. I mean, the amount of new features in the new Gen 4 platform is staggering, but the biggest benefit is it now gives you the ability to build a full CMS without losing any of your design or developer power. We didn't want to take anything away from the developers and designers because we are developers and designers, and we know we're very specific sometimes when we do our own sites. How we want them to look, how the code we want to be. We didn't want we want to force code on developers and designers and have them work around proprietary code. That's one of the problems if you work in another CMS, you work in WordPress, is you're always fighting the code that's generated with their CMS to work with your customizations. That's the primary point of the Source Pro CMS, is that you're free to use your own code, integrate it directly in there, and it's going to work. All right, we'll go ahead and have some other videos, some advanced videos coming down the line, including more videos on the CSS manager, some videos on some advanced product configuration. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And one last thing. I don't know if you realized this as we've gone through this, but on the bottom of these pages, see a little button there that says Edit Page. Obviously, if you're logged into the admin system as an editor and you have the proper privileges, and you're on a page that's a CMS page, you can actually just go ahead and click on Edit Page, and it loads that directly into the editor, and you don't have to track it down in the system to edit it. If you actually just open up on the website, if you're looking, let's say I want to edit the contact page or something like that. So there's a contact page, and let's say I want to replace this header. There's the edit button. Go ahead and edit it. Then it loads it right into the editor, and then I'm going to go ahead and replace that full width contact image type header. Here's the full width header. So go ahead and replace this header, and go ahead and select a header, upload new full width image, and then there's the new header in the background. It obviously saved it already, but I'll go ahead and save my changes, and go back to the site now and refresh it, and there's your new header. As I said before, this thing allows you to do all kinds of crazy things like background videos and stuff like that. Majority of that, again, is built into the system. Go ahead and add some background video to this page. We'll just do this last thing real quick here. We'll go ahead and add a CDN background video. Go ahead and set that CDN. And then background is loaded. There's a video coming through. We'll go ahead and pull up site again. This is the page we just edited. Go ahead and replace it, and then you'll see the little video come down. There it comes. Just added this little liquid video in there, but it's an example that none of this stuff requires any coding. This is all done directly through the CMS. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. I know this went a little longer than we thought it would, but there's a lot to cover, and we want to give you at least a kind of general overview of what you can do in the new SiteStore Pro. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We'll go ahead and install a demo for you on your server, or if you prefer, we'll go ahead and put one on our servers, and you can play around with it and see if it works for your business requirements. Thanks a lot, and good luck launching your store in the new SiteStore Pro. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.